I'm Chris Calfee. I'm the first stage 1X IPT manager. The Aries 1X program made the decision from day one to use uncertified or unqualified main parachutes. The risk being that given using these chutes that we would have a failure upon reentry and lose booster. The decision was made again to use these parachutes early on, and the Aries program had always planned a test program for the parachutes, not only for the main but for the pilot and the drogue. So they accelerated that test program and that development program as much as they could. I can't remember exactly how many months, but they did move tests forward to benefit the 1X program. For a main parachute, you'll never have, at least as large as these parachutes are, you'll never have certification of them until you fly them. There's no test that you can do of a main parachute that will fully qualify it for a flight. During the mission, after separation and descent, the booster is descending towards the water, and at some altitude, the pilot parachute is deployed and pulls out the drogue. The drogue was deployed to orient the booster in the vertical position. All that went nominally. The drogue then pulls the forward skirt extension off the mains, and the mains deployed. Initially, the mains deployed as they were supposed to, but shortly thereafter, we found out looking at the data afterwards that we missed a reefing stage. The mains deploy in three reefing stages, where there's an initial stage of air or load, then a second stage with more. It's a phased, that we don't get all the load at once. So what we noticed on the chute that failed was that it skipped the first stage, went directly to the second stage, and then that's what caused its failure. Shortly after that failure, before we hit the water, a second chute also partially deflated, and we believe the reason for that was probably the additional load on that second chute from losing the first chute. There was a little bit of concern when the drogue deployed that we had this significant swinging motion that I'm sure most people have seen by now from the chase plane video. We've actually traced back the root cause of our lanyard pull and the reefing line pin pulled early to that significant unexpected motion or movement of the parachutes inside the bags, inside the forward skirt extension. We've done tests since the failure that went back and verified that hardware performed. That hardware didn't fail. It performed as it was supposed to perform. What we found out is the lanyard was pulled early, somehow was pulled during probably descent. With respect to the testing, what we can do are scale tests of a cluster. We did do that before we flew 1X. We flew a scale test of the three main parachutes cluster test. We also did a full up test of one of the three parachutes in a drop test. And of course, the reason you can't do a full scale cluster test with all three is we have no way to lift that kind of weight that would test those three parachutes in a cluster. Besides the testing that we performed, the way we brought down the risk was the use of experienced personnel. The personnel that packed these parachutes were the same technicians that packed parachutes for shuttle down at the PRF at the Cape. So that that gave us the warm fuzzy that that the packing process was well understood. So the main lesson to learn from this anomaly we had on 1X was that it reinforces the fly like you test like you fly philosophy. We did everything we possibly could to mitigate the risk of failure for these parachutes. We had experienced personnel. We did all the testing that we could and accelerated that testing that the Aries 1 program was doing for the parachutes. But we still had the anomaly. For the parachutes specifically, the Aries 1X is the certification of the parachutes. It is how they will gain qualification of the parachutes. They'll never get that full qualification in the testing program that they're doing within Aries, for the mains, specifically for the mains. We did learn a lot from this test for these parachutes. We're already talking about some design changes we'll make and on the mains and how we pack the mains, the processing of how we pack the mains, how we wrap certain components in there, and the lanyards and the reefing line cutters. We'll change none of that hardware significantly. It'll be the same hardware. We'll just tweak the processing and tweak some of the external wraps, if you will, of this hardware to protect it.